What is going on, traders? We got a lot to talk about. We're going to focus on Nvidia. We're going to focus on semiconductors. We're going to focus on some things that I'm noticing across the market. So before we start, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So right now we're looking at Nvidia's daily chart. And I have to be honest, Nvidia looks pretty good here. It looks absolutely bullish here. It looks like it could potentially see more upside. You guys see it here. We rejected here. We rejected here. We broke through, and now we're consolidating above this trend. And so things look good so far. My only issue is that the limited upside potential that we have here. Now, if you don't know, Nvidia's implied move for its earnings is about 10.9%. We'll round that up to about 12%, which is around the 140s, mid 140s. We'll say 145. All right, don't quote me on that, but somewhere in the 140s. And so ironic enough, that's exactly pretty much where this daily supply and demand zone is. But this is not only the daily supply and demand zone, but this is a monthly resistance. So we're going to get rid of this real quick and we're going to look at the monthly time frame. Okay, because a lot of traders don't look at the higher time frames, the much higher time frames, I should be exact. But right here, so we zoom out, we zoom back in, and as you guys can see, this yellow line here is at the top of this bullish candle here for the monthly chart, right at the top of this wick, right at 140, 141 range. And then the bottom of the daily supply and demand zone is pretty much at the top of this candle, this bearish candle here at the top of its wick. And so that's what's concerning me. And that's why I'm not comfortable trading NVIDIA or at least doing calls or even puts on NVIDIA. If anything, like I said in the last video, I think the best option to or how to play NVIDIA is to pretty much sell puts, or you can do like a leap play, whatever the case may be, whatever you decide to do is really up to you. But regardless, NVIDIA looks great. It looks fine, but the upside is it seems very limited. And that's what's making me uncomfortable in regards to playing NVIDIA earnings. It's also important to note that we still have fair value gaps that's open to the downside. And I told you guys in the last video that usually when earnings happens, unless there's fair value gaps in both directions, and in this case there's none to the upside in regards to Nvidia, usually when earnings happens, it usually takes the opportunity to mitigate fair value gaps. You don't have to believe me, I see it all the time. I play earnings plenty of times, and I always notice that usually when a stock wants to either go higher or lower, it kind of like hunts for fair value gaps. And right now, NVIDIA has a fair value gap that needs to be mitigated at around 120, and not only 120, but as low as about 110. We'll say 110, 105 range. Okay. So that's something I want you guys to really look out for. Again, I'm not interested in trading NVIDIA. I will say that much. I'm just not. Okay. If anything, I would say buy shares, maybe NVDL shares, SOXL, whatever the case may be. If you just really, really want to get into this, or sell puts, sure, you won't make a lot of money off selling puts. You may have to have a lot of collateral depending on what contract you pick, but regardless, I think it's just a much better option. But who knows? You may get lucky, whatever direction you pick. I don't know. But regardless, right now, I'm just not comfortable trading NVIDIA. Again, it seems like upside is very limited. Sure, can it break higher? Can it break above this? Absolutely. But am I going to take that chance? I'm not. Okay. Because one because one thing, everybody's bullish on NVIDIA earnings. Everybody. And sure, NVIDIA can beat earnings, right? Let's say it beats earnings. Let's say it beats EPS, it beats revenue, it beats everything, right? And that's what retail investors are normally paying attention to. They normally only pay attention to whether it be EPS or revenue. But no one talks about the guidance. And that's what institutions, that's what investors are truly looking at. They're looking at the guidance. So let's say NVIDIA does beat earnings, right? It beats earnings, it beats EPS, it comes out like right away after hours. Boom, you go up to 140, everybody's screaming to the moon. Everybody's happy. They're going to say market's all-time highs, yay! And everybody's all excited, right? And then guidance comes out, and let's say Nvidia is like, yeah, we got to slow things down, and then boom, that can happen. Okay, that can absolutely happen, and everybody's like confused on why Nvidia is dropping. Well, investors care about guidance, and if Nvidia can't keep up their guidance from the past previous earnings, then yes, investors are going to pretty much slow things down and they're going to have lower expectations for the next earnings. Okay. So I just want you guys to keep these things in mind. And by all means, yes, if Nvidia breaks above 140, it's definitely going to carry the market to all time highs. That's my opinion. Do what you want with that information. But obviously, if Nvidia absolutely tanks for earnings or just has terrible guidance, or not even terrible, but just bad guidance, then yeah, I imagine it's going to take the market with it to the downside. I think that's pretty clear just based off what we've seen between yesterday and today. And so we look at our Discord bot, our AI here. And one thing I've been noticing in regards to this Discord bot is is first off, it's been alerting Nvidia calls and puts like all day. It's been pretty insane with how much it's been alerting Nvidia. And so we have Nvidia calls for September 20th, and I want you guys to pay attention to these dates and also the strike prices, because 130 is like the main strike price that keeps popping up. You're not seeing like 150s, 160s, 180s. You're not seeing anything crazy. You're just seeing 130s. And mind you, just to go back to Nvidia real quick, we're at 128. We can hit 130 tomorrow. Okay, so I want you guys to keep that in mind. We're very close to the 130 calls. And so these 130 contracts keep popping up for September 20th. Another call, 127th, September 6th. You have puts for 110 strike. And so these 110 strikes is what's really like kind of having me on edge here, because all the 110 strikes are coming in for August 30th, right? And that's not even the only one. They just keep coming in. So you have 115 puts for October 18th, but we're looking for the 110 ones. 130 calls for 8:30, and pay attention to how often these 130 calls keep popping up. And so we look at 120 puts for August 30th, 120 puts for August 30th, 120 puts for August 30th, right? And so when it comes to this Discord bot, you want to pay attention to how often it alerts the same contracts over and over. Another one, 120 puts for August 30th. Um, and I can just keep going. And any calls that's coming in, if they're not 130 strike, then they're pretty much like for next year or for months out, right? 130 strike, August 30th. 130 strike, August 30th. 179, January 17th, 2025. So hopefully we're noticing the pattern here. 130 strike once again, August 30th. So you hopefully you guys get the idea that all these 130 calls are coming in for this week. We're really close to 130 already. But there's nothing like crazy in regards to the strike prices. And anything that's further out is pretty much for like September or January next year or just next year in general. So there's nothing too crazy in regards to strike prices, which leads me to believe that if Nvidia does beat earnings, again, very limited upside. Maybe we see 140. Maybe we open at 140 on Thursday and maybe sell off, or we can break higher. That is on the table. I'm not going to, take it off the table or anything. And so I just really want you guys to pay attention to that. We go back, and I mean, I can show you guys this all day, right? 127 calls. I mean, and any calls that's coming in. And here's another thing, the puts that are coming in, because there are puts coming in. I'm just trying to find them right now. There's a lot of puts coming in for the 110 strike. 143 strike, November 15th. 128, November 15th. 132, November 15th. So any puts that was coming in, you have puts coming in for next year, but it was a lot of 110 puts. I can't find them, but regardless, there was a lot of 110 puts coming in for this week, right? And any puts or calls that comes in regards to the 130 strike price or the 110, 120 strike price, they're all for this week. But when you're talking about any bigger price above those or below those, you're looking way further out. All right. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. So either one, institutions are hedging their positions in NVIDIA because they want longer calls for, bigger dates such as January next year, and then they'll get puts for this week, whatever the case may be. So they could be hedging their positions, or they're expecting Nvidia to drop sometime this week or for earnings, obviously, right? But the 130 strike just really just seems to resonate across the board when we're looking at the options chain in general. And mind you, our AI bot doesn't even alert from unusual whales. So we can look at unusual whales as well. All right. So we can look at unusual whales, and as you guys can see, there's nothing too crazy. Now you have this 160 call for September 6th. You have 110 calls, you have 128 calls, you have 129s. This is like the only thing that's coming in regards to high premium. So this has a 1.38 million premium. You have a 143 call for 1.47 million premium. So there's a lot of calls coming in for Nvidia. And so that leads me to pretty much be skeptical because it just seems too obvious, right? Everybody is bullish on Nvidia earnings. And usually when everyone is just bullish on something, it tends to go bad, right? That's just from my experience. I could be wrong here. That's fine. I'm not trying to like really predict Nvidia earnings. I'm just pretty much telling you guys what I'm seeing here. And so a lot of things that's happening behind the scenes, we're noticing puts that's coming in within the same week. We're noticing calls for 130 strike coming in the same week. But anything that's further out is going like dated contracts, September 20th, January, November, things like that. So I just want you guys to keep those things in mind. Now, let's look at the semiconductors ETFs. So let's look at SMH. And so despite Nvidia looking bullish, the semiconductor ETFs do not look bullish, like at all. Okay, I want you guys to keep this in mind. So we're looking at SMH daily time frame. If you're new to the YouTube channel and you don't understand what SMH ETF is, it's the number one holding for Nvidia shares. Okay, Nvidia it holds like I don't even know billions of shares of Nvidia. I should have had the website pulled up, but regardless, you got to look it up yourself if you want to. But regardless, we see here we have a potential head and shoulders pattern forming. So we have our shoulder here, shoulder here. And then you have a bounce here off this trend, and then you're breaking down or you broke down, and now you're rolling back up. And once again, you're breaking down again. You broke below this trend right here once again. And look what happened today. So today we broke below. Well, we didn't break below. This was yesterday, but yesterday we broke below, and then today we are pretty much at this trend and we closed below it. And so that leads me to believe that we could be looking at downside from SMH. But maybe you don't believe me there. Okay, maybe that's just not enough. We look at another one, another semiconductor ETF with Nvidia being its number one shareholding. We see it again. We have a potential head and shoulders pattern forming here. We have a shoulder here, potential shoulder forming here. Our trend is here. We bounced here, and we broke through. We're doing the same thing we just saw on SOXL. Okay, and then we rejected the trend, and look what's happening. It looks like we're trying to head lower. Okay, the neckline for this head and shoulders pattern is about, I meant to say this on SMH. The neckline for SMH is about 200, I want to say, but the neckline for SOXX is about 190. All right, so something to really pay attention to. So, despite Nvidia looking slightly bullish, everything else looks bearish. Even the triple Qs, everything else looks like it's ready to drop. And so that's what's leading me to believe that Nvidia can beat earnings. Sure, right? It can beat earnings, EPS, revenue, all that stuff. But what about its guidance? And so that's the main thing I want everyone to pay attention to that's watching this video. Pay attention to the guidance, see what happens during the guidance. Don't get excited right away. And if the guidance comes in and you see Nvidia breaking through 140, I would say 141 to be safe, then we can start talking about all-time highs, the moon, and all that stuff. Another thing that's really bothering me about Nvidia earnings is the day that is happening. Tomorrow, after hours, great. But then the next day, you have unemployment claims and GDP coming out. And so that's another reason why it's really hard for me to want to trade Nvidia. It's in a terrible spot to be trading, in my opinion. Maybe we get lucky. Maybe, you get calls and it goes to the moon. By all means, I'm here for it. I want everyone here to make money some way, shape, or form as long as it's legal. But Thursday we have unemployment claims. We have GDP. Not exactly of the best place for Nvidia earnings to be, in my opinion. So if Nvidia does beat, what if unemployment claims takes all that back? So it's just really tough wanting to, even if I did trade Nvidia earnings, it would just be tough for me to want to hold it overnight. And Nvidia just dropped after hours to one. Oh, okay, I thought it was 126. But even if I did trade Nvidia earnings, and let's say I did calls, and let's say it goes to like 140, I have to worry about unemployment claims the next day. Okay. And they could just easily take all that back. So maybe guidance takes it back. And if guidance doesn't take it back, maybe unemployment claims takes it back. Or maybe everything comes in great and then we just start heading to the moon. All right. One or the other. All right. But it's just not worth the risk in my opinion. And so we're gonna look at other stocks and what I'm noticing across the board. So first stock we're gonna look at is Tesla. And so a lot of stocks are showing that they want to drop further. So first we're going to look at the Tesla weekly chart. And this is what I want you guys to pay attention to here. So this weekly chart, I showed this in the Discord. We rejected here, we rejected here, rejection here, rejection here, rejection here, so on and so forth. You guys get the idea. Then we tried to break out here. We failed. Bulls got trapped, and then we headed lower. And then we get a closer look. We go down to the daily time frame, and look what's happening. And so you guys know I don't make this stuff up. I don't force trends or anything like that. That's why I always mark rejection and bounce points. So no one can say I'm forcing anything. We bounced here, and then we played games here. We broke in and we breaking back down. And we closed below 210. If Tesla gets below 208, this thing is going to head much lower. Okay. First target I would say is 207, 205, and then 200. It gives up 200. This thing is easily heading to 194 and then 190. All right. So Tesla looks bearish. Tesla looks like it wants to drop further. We can look at other stocks. Amazon. Look what happened with Amazon here. Amazon, so we zoom out. Amazon gave up 175. That's not a good sign. We bounced here, we bounced here, we broke through, we retested up here on the daily, and this is the daily time frame. We mitigated this fair value gap, and then we gapped down. Then we tried to break higher once again, and look what happened. We created another lower high on Amazon. You got your high here, your lower high here, another lower high here. We broke 175. Amazon looks like it wants to go lower. Okay. We look at Apple. Now, I have nothing for Apple. I'm sorry. This thing looks like trash. Okay, I mean, look at this. What is this? Who can trade this? Let me know. Maybe scalpers, whatever the case may be, but this looks terrible. Apple's giving me nothing. If anything, Apple will probably do the inverse of the market, maybe. But other than that, there's just nothing to talk about in regards to Apple here. We look at Meta. And so hopefully we're just getting the point here that there's across the board. First, there's a lot of fair value gaps to the downside in regards to big tech. Right here, Meta has a fair value gap all the way down at 500, between 500 and 490. There's another one all the way at 470 to 460. I mean, and we can do this all day and just look at every big tech stock and just shows that they all want to drop. We look at coin. Someone was asking, is it safe to trade coin because the AI bot alerted it. And I always tell you guys to make sure that your TA matches what the bot is alerting. Okay. Look at coin. It had this ascending triangle. We talked about this. It had this ascending triangle. It looked great. It broke out. We made money off of it. And then look what happened. It broke down. I made like 3K off of it. A few members made a good bag off of it. But Bitcoin just went to 59K. Wow. And so we're looking at coin, and this thing is gapping down. Coin is at 193 after hours. That's insane. But regardless, we look at coin, and look what happened. It's breaking down. It broke this ascending triangle. I tell you guys, when a stock rolls back into a pattern, which just happened right here, chances are it's going to continue in that direction. Can't make this stuff up. And I've been proving this strategy over and over and over again on this channel all the time. Bitcoin. Bitcoin just Bitcoin just broke down. Okay, it just absolutely broke down. We look at Bitcoin. I'm trying to zoom out here. So here we go. So we look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's still in a safe spot. As long as it stays above 58K, it's pretty safe. If it gives up 58K after hours, I will be concerned about the market tomorrow. Because at this point, we have to treat Bitcoin as a leading indicator because it has an ETF in the market, it has a stock in the market. So it only makes sense that if Bitcoin is dropping, chances are there's a good chance the market might follow along. All right. Do what you want with that information. But Bitcoin is breaking down. I mean, it's falling very. is falling very fast, like really, really fast. This thing was just at like 62K and now it's at 59K. All right, so those are things I just want you guys to pay attention to. A lot of these stocks, despite what Nvidia looks like, Nvidia looks bullish, but the upside is very, very limited in my opinion. It's just very limited. And sure, earnings can crush. Maybe it just breaks through everything. Sure. There was one more thing I want to show you guys, and then we'll get up out of here. So RSI, we go to the monthly time frame here. This is another reason why I just will not trade Nvidia. I'm sure Discord members are like salivating and wanting me to trade it and alert this thing. But right here, look how overbought we are. We're pretty much at we're almost at the top of this RSI. We've never seen this before. Well, after split, right? That's another thing. Nvidia is extremely overbought on a monthly time frame. And granted, it's the monthly time frame. It may take forever to play out, but that's just another reason for me not to want to play this thing. All right. So I'm just gonna sit on the sidelines. You guys do what you want with this information. Hopefully you got something out of it. Discord link is in the description below. If you want access to the plays, if you want access to the AI bot, it alerts plays as well. Its members are enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. So we'll see what happens from there. You get insider plays, so you get to see what insiders are buying, whether they're buying stocks, whether they're selling stocks. Right here, you have an insider, large insider transaction. He's selling Roblox, 166K shares. Um, give you guys a sneak. Well, I already gave you guys a sneak peek, but you get to see what institutions are doing. So you're just seeing a lot of Nvidia calls, a lot of Nvidia puts, things like that. But there's a lot. There's a lot that Discord offers. I'm continuing to try to add value every single day. So join the Discord. Link is in the description below. If you want SMS text messages sent directly to your phone, then website the link is in the description below. It's pretty self-explanatory. It does cost more. It costs $10 more simply because I have to pretty much pay the third party in order to keep going with it. So that's all I have. So good luck tomorrow with Nvidia earnings. I probably won't be making a video. We'll see. And until the next video, traders, have a good one.